Hello and welcome to the Men's Lifeline Academy podcast, where we bring on stellar men who are stellars, helping by telling their stories so that way they can inspire someone else. And today, I have none other than Bill with us today. Bill is the one who's fighting for families and founders so that way you don't have to make unnecessary sacrifices and still live a good life. So, Bill, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, Zach, awesome. Thanks for having me here. Really looking forward to this.
Yeah, I mean, you got highly recommended by quite a few people just to bring on, and I wanted to reach out and kind of hear your story and what led you to wanting to fight for families and founders so that way they can live a good life without having to make too many sacrifices.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think definitely looking forward. We can share some stories and just kind of talk through some concepts, different things that I've been working on. But maybe I'll kind of start back a little bit, kind of with a little history about who I am and how I got here, because, always trying to connect with people. And so I think that's been a big theme part, throughout my life. And so maybe I'll kind of give you a little background. I've been married to my wife, Holly, for 30 years, just this past December. So, yeah, we met in college. We've got two boys. I've got my oldest is 22 years old and my youngest is 19. Just, all about family. Definitely, I would say I'm a family guy. And I can, get into some details about my family and things that are important to us. But my wife and I have kind of lived around the country a bit. Graduated college around Chicago, went to a small school there called North Central College. And then, man, we lived in San Antonio. We lived in Redmond, around Seattle for about 5 years. We moved to Austin. Well, we've been planted in Indianapolis now for about 23 years. So Indy is definitely kind of home for us now. Raised our kids here. So I'm an entrepreneur, got different multiple business things going on, but really always try and come back to it's about family. And for me, it's about faith and family. So we can get into that. But a quick background on me to start, I guess, right there.
No, that's so good. I mean, so you've been a little bit everywhere and everywhere. So what got you into being an entrepreneur? Because that's not an easy task.
Yeah, I always grew up kind of doing little entrepreneurial things. Even as a kid, grew up around Chicago. You get your, the family snowblower out during the winter snows, and you're going around knocking on doors, trying to, sell snow clearing services to your neighbors and making some money. Did the paper route thing as a kid. Shows my age also, but out on the bike, kind of doing the paper route. But it was good because it really taught you how to go out and talk to people. And so, as I graduated college, I went to a big consulting firm. Back then, it was Anderson Consulting. Now it's Accenture, but traveled around a lot with that company and learned how to do projects. And then when I went to Seattle, I took a job for a small startup company out there. They were based in Chicago, but had a satellite in Redmond. We were working with Microsoft and other companies. We built like one of the first web-based university platforms. So it was called Web University, but Microsoft used it for running a lot of their certification programs through it. Like this was the late 90s. This was like old technology, everything, but really a cool opportunity. And the entrepreneur in me always, though, wanted to continue to find something. And so while I was out there, tried multiple things. Like there was one opportunity that there's a friend that was in the seafood business out there. He was a seafood broker. We were going to start this B2B auction for seafood brokers. I mean, back then, eBay was just starting to grow and to become a thing, and online auctions were hot, and B2B auctions were also hot. And so the whole thing crashed and burned. We didn't end up launching this, but I kind of started thinking, hey, if I was going to do this for the seafood industry, because I have a tech background, I can build. And so I thought, why don't I just build a platform? Let's just kind of start there. And so I started talking to people and building, ended up meeting up with some guys. At this point, then quit my full-time job with that online university company in March of 2000. So I was at 26 years ago now. And in March then, right, I quit it right at the beginning of March, and then the markets crashed in later March of 2000. Venture capital, we were going to try and raise, and venture capital kind of started drying up for in that season. But I met some guys and said, hey, I like what you're doing, but let's take it and kind of twist it and go a little bit of a different direction. And then we ended up building a platform for companies that have direct independent sales reps. Built a platform that did all their e-commerce, all their commission calculations, because they paid bonuses based on sales. It wasn't affiliate marketing. It was true kind of direct selling, that there was a certain product or service and they brought in reps, and we built that whole platform to onboard them, pay them, give them a replicated kind of marketing website. So it was a cool business. But that thing, I'm giving you kind of the long version here, but that,
Oh,
because it sort of
for it.
sets
This is
up,
really
it's kind
interesting.
of, yeah, it's interesting because it sets the stage of a lot of things that have happened in my life. And I, that company raised about $1 million back then and built this platform, and we sold it to some big names in that space, and then the whole thing just crashed and burned. So it disintegrated. And the interesting thing about it was myself and one other guy kind of walked away out of the ashes with the rights to the software and one client. And that one client couldn't support us both. So at this point, I had then moved to Indianapolis, and we did this probably 7 years, did a 50-50 partnership where we then grew that business to find more clients like we had, built the platform up again, kept going. And so it was a wild ride. And so kind of just even that, it was a lot of stories that I could kind of come and talk about there. Faith journey definitely was part of that. I think if you, as I look back on that time, after 7 years of a 50-50 partnership, you get to a place where you start maybe going in a little bit of different paths. And that's a good thing. It's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. But we had a buy sell agreement. And so we got to a place where my partners then said he would buy me out. And we had a good deal. I felt good. I was going to go start another business. Well, that deal never happened. And he never came through on the payments.
Oh,
And
really?
he was kind of using the money to reinvest in some other areas of the business, but didn't really honor the buy sell agreement. And so it was a really dark period in my life.
I can't imagine, especially if someone's
Yeah,
willing to buy you out of your partnership and everything, they never.
yeah,
Wow.
difficult time. I had luckily had some mentors, um, other business guys, other Christians in Indianapolis that kind of walked alongside me in that. But you know what, Zach? You can kind of harbor ill will, and it was about a year of back and forth of like, hey, you owe me, and I'm talking to an attorney, and I'm going to sue, and all this. Um, but then I was on a retreat with a church retreat for a weekend, and was just journaling. And clearly, I can go find my journal, but it's like just the words "let it go." Kind of wrote that down, and got then on Monday called him up, and I said, "Hey, you know what? You don't owe me anymore. We can forget about that buy sell. I'm just going to forgive all that debt." The line of credit that we had that was still in my name, that still had a balance on it. I'm taking that over. I'm going to just get that paid off. And so, you know what? That's the thing. Like, I can clearly look at that point in time and see then how my new business started to scale from there. And it's like I always point back to, I just said I have to trust God, and I have to put my faith in that there's a bigger plan going on here, and I can't harbor ill will. And we left things just fine, at the end of that. It was okay. And so yeah, started building the new business then after that.
Well, just to take a step back right there, I can't imagine what that's like to carry on all that debt that you might have had. That
I
you're
tell
gonna
you what,
shoulder all
man,
that debt to
it
pay
was,
it off.
yeah, it was a very difficult time. And my wife was a stay-at-home mom. She still is. Like, so we've been blessed that she can be at home. And for us, that's been very important as we raised our boys. Um, it's, it's not for everybody, but for us it is. But in that time, I mean, I'm the only breadwinner. I'm the one trying to build the business, and it was dark days. How are we going to pay these bills, or how are we going to do that? Because I thought that I would have a little bit of a nest egg set to kind of ramp up, but um, just started working locally around Indy, building relationships, continuing to grow that business. Yeah, it's a wild story, but the kind of the cool thing is that I've been, oh man, what is it? Well, 26 years is when I can't even, it's hard to think back, but 26 years of kind of doing the entrepreneurial scene. The clients that we had in that prior business
Hmm.
are working with me again. And so it's like, it's interesting to see how things come around, and you just got to be faithful. Just continue to take steps, continue to trust. That's a big thing where I like to talk to younger entrepreneurs that are, it's not about striving. It's not. It's like, yes, you wanna do your best and you wanna set goals, but there's this balance between striving and trusting, and that's a big thing for me. And so, yeah, just it's a message that I like to share.
So how do you do that? How do you not focus like on all the goals and everything in your case where you have to survive, and especially with your wife being a stay-at-home mom and everything. So how do you keep that in the forefront of your mind, be balanced in that way?
Yeah, balance is a good word, and but goals are important. Like, and I'm not saying you don't have goals. Like, you can go look at my X profile and you'll see my 2026 goals. Like, I have a ton of goals that I put out there, and I'm trying to be more public about that this year around doing monthly updates, because for me, like, I have to get centered around what's important to me. And for me, it's faith, family, fun, fitness, and finances, like, because that's part of my business. And so um, you have to kind of then take a step back and say, I'm going to allow myself to grind, to work really hard
Hmm.
in certain points. And there's seasons. I definitely believe that we have seasons in life where you are giving it all you got, and you're also trying to pour in, if you have a family or even your friends or whatever, to have some of that time. I don't believe there's anything as a balanced life. It just doesn't work. Like, the idea of having this perfectly balanced life, it, it's it to me, it comes back to, it's an integrated life. I have these certain priorities that I want to set. I'm aligned with my family on that. I'm aligned with my customers, with anybody that I'm doing strategic partnerships with, or whoever it is in the business world, my friends. There's things that we know we want to be together on. It's never going to be in balance, but I do want to carve out different times. And so, anyways, that's just something I think I've learned how to be better at.
Well, I think the first step is even taking time to define it. Like you said, it's an integrated not life, not a balanced life. Because I know when you talk to a lot of people, they want to have a work-life balance. They want everything like almost like 50-50. And then you hear about people who actually run a business who are very successful say there's no going to be work-life balance. It's all about setting your priorities and what is your priority
Yeah,
in that.
yep, definitely. I think, it's part of it is really working. You hear a lot of people talk about systems, and I'm a big systems guy, right? Like, you got to have first kind of know what you stand for, what's important to you. Like, really, that takes time. I don't think you're going to do that in just a 1 hour sitting. You probably get some themes, but that's where you start to walk this out. And having a system and some routine definitely helps in that. I'm a big system kind of process guy. And so um, that's, I think, part of that. Of It's not balanced, but it helps you feel like you're balanced because you're integrating it, the things that are important.
So what does that look like for you and like your day to day of having this system set up? Like, do you like wake up at a certain time every single day? Do you have like carved out time? Like, what does developing that system look like for you?
Yeah, for me, it's I'm a 5 a.m. guy. I mean, not that that is. Some people say you have to be a five, but I'm probably like 5:30 typically when I get up. Always start with a cup of coffee, a black cup of coffee, but then my Bible time, and I probably spend typically, I don't know, 45 minutes kind of reading the word, just taking time to pause. Because if that's how I start my day out, it positions me then to be in the right mind space to go tackle the rest of the day. So immediately after that quiet time, I'm working out. I thankfully have some workout stuff at home, so I'm just going into my basement and I work out then. Strength training, also cardio. I'm a big Peloton guy, so I like my Peloton. Um, but then yeah, then probably 8 a.m. I'm working, and so it's meetings. Most of my day is a lot of one-on-ones with people, a lot of team meetings. Um, yeah, and so from there, it's like typically 5 o'clock. I'm usually 8 to 5. Like I try and focus in on work there, even like some networking events and different one-on-one kind of coffees and things around Indy is when I try and do that. But then typically it's my family time after that. Um, I sometimes I'll work at night. I mean, it varies. So there's always things that come up, but um, it's a pretty, I might call it kind of a boring life, but it's definitely a routine that I'm in. My family loves to travel, so we definitely do, man, probably at least once a quarter we're doing some kind of trip. But just in trying to enjoy a little bit of life. Yeah.
So how do you kind of keep we don't like overwork though too, where it gets into that family time? Like how do you make sure that like once a month when you do your audit, do you also look at your systems?
Yeah, I do. Like for me, one of the systems that I use also is like just like I don't know, it's like a productivity kind of tracker. So I kind of use it to track like different things that I'm saying are important to me. And some of those are like date nights with my wife, number of steps that I'm walking this year, number of business connections that I'm doing kind of one-on-ones with. There's some fitness goals in there. There's some, just things like that. But for me, it's like I come back and I sort of use that as a gauge for me to say, like, am I on track with this stuff? And I look at it every day. It's some because I track things like steps and workouts and my quiet time and all that. Because I say I want to be in the Word every day, for an example. I'm checking that off. Like I'm a big checklist kind of guy, and so
Definitely sounds
not to yeah, like that's part of it, but it keeps me focused on what do I want to do, and the family time is part of those things. And so I can feel like I'm staying in check on those things by using a something I'm looking at each day.
so do you use like an app or do you use like Excel? Like what is your like daily checkoff list?
Yeah, I use an app. Man, I found it. I can't even tell you what it's called. But I'll promote it here real quick if I can pull this up because I think it's a cool app. Man, I don't want to waste our time looking at it. I think it's called Progress.
Progress?
Yeah, it's in the App Store. It's called Progress, but I set it up with custom categories and I color coded them. And then for each category, like the four, my fitness, faith, fun and friends and um, finance, like I have each one color coded. And I have different things that I'm tracking in that. So yeah, it's a good one.
I'll have to check that out. Sounds really cool because you know, trying to find those apps and everything is really cool, especially when you can find the right one that kind of meets your needs because there's so many that people have built and developed.
And this one's super simple. Like it was, I paid for it. Like I did the free trial, and after the first day, I'm like, I'm totally paying this guy for this app because it was like, I think it was like $8 or $9 for the year. And like, he absolutely deserves to be paid for this because for me, it solved the exact problem I was looking for. But yeah, it's funny. It's got a tile that I have on my kind of landing screen on my iPhone, and so I see it and kind of have a tracker set up there that I use. So yeah.
$8 for the year.
Yeah, it was very inexpensive, and
I
for
was
me,
gonna say
it
that's like
solved the
pennies a
exact
day.
problem. Right?
Yeah, I would definitely have to link that in the description below for people who wanna, who love systems and wanna definitely check that out, especially if you find it effective.
Yeah. No, it's been actually a really good help for me. This is the second year that I'm using it now. So,
Then
um,
you know it's good if you've been using it 2 years in a row because how many times do people start an app and then they kinda trail off after, like, a couple weeks?
yeah, I use it every day. So it's funny. Yeah. So no, I think those kind of just finding what works for you, and like I think it's really cool to see like there's a lot of content that people put out there around systems, and so much of it is like take little nuggets and just start to personalize it for yourself because there is no one master plan. But you know what? At the end of the day, most of it is just be consistent, right? Like you hear that all the time.
I do.
Keep showing up, be consistent, and you start seeing change.
So how often when do you typically will see that change? Because I hear about a lot of different numbers. Some people will say 22 days, some people will say 3 months, 9 months. What have you found, like, the level of commitment people need to have to be that consistent that they'll start noticing changes? Because you go to the gym, you don't see any changes. Go day 2, day 3, day 4, you don't really see too much of a difference. So what
Yeah,
have you noticed when working with yourself and then other people?
yeah. I think to me that's the 90-day mark.
90-day.
Yeah, the 90-day mark, and some of that's backed up with some science, and I'm not a big quote kind of pointing back to stats kind of guy. Like I couldn't call it off the top of my head, but different seasons of my life have been I've done gone to therapy, like talked to therapists and stuff, like just to get help. Like there's no shame in that. Like to me, it's like really good. But there was one um, kind of session or therapy piece that I've talked when I was talking to somebody. It was 90 days. Like it takes 90 days to really get someone's brain to kind of change, and you start seeing some traction, keep building on it, but it's that 90-day point where your brain starts to really morph and recreate new neural pathways and all of that stuff that happens when you're trying to do good habits. To me, it's always kind of point back to the 90-day mark.
Makes a lot of sense. That way give yourself that time to make those incremental adjustments. And it's interesting that you've been through therapy. So what was that like, especially being a guy, and that's not always easy admitting that you need help.
Yeah. It's part of where I'm really trying to go kind of now with part of my life is how do you come alongside other guys that maybe are struggling a little bit? And I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist, but I don't put out coaching services or anything like that. But if I come across someone who reaches out or they need help, and it's been cool to see just random people of how they find you. I always love talking to people like that because for me, it's okay to be vulnerable as a guy. Like, we sort of see that, like, no, you got to be this kind of macho, tough guy. I don't buy into that. Like, I'm okay with it. Like, nothing against that, but it's okay to also be vulnerable and learn how to communicate better. Like for me, it's like, how do I build up my wife so that we can have a stronger relationship? How can I show up as the husband that I need to be? How do I show up as the father that I need to be? And you don't have it all figured out. And so let's find people that have maybe been down this path before you, whether that's a mentor or an advisor, or even a full blown counselor or therapist type of person. I think it's a wonderful thing. And so for me, it's just having someone to talk to. I once heard a quote that says, um, it was Michael Dell, the founder of Dell Computer, and he said he had like seven different. And these were coaches that he worked with at the time. This was decades ago, but he said, there's a lot of power in hearing yourself think out loud, and that's true. So when you are talking to a mentor or to an advisor or to a therapist, you are hearing yourself articulate struggles and things that you want to get better at or areas that you need help in. Um, and you're getting some bounce back around that, some back and forth. Typically don't. even you're not even looking for advice. It's just like most people know what they need to do. They just need help kind of taking that next step. And that's a lot of what I try and do when I do one-on-ones with people. And I really rarely like to give advice, but I will ask a lot of questions, kind of based on how it goes, kind of probe a little deeper and start to pull out some of that of what they're really struggling with. And to me, there's a lot of power in vulnerability.
Oh, absolutely. That's why it's always important to define the difference between vulnerability and weakness. I know a lot of times they get used interchangeably, and they're really different if you look at it.
Mm, so true, man. It's just so true, Zach. I love that. Like, to me, there's nothing weak about being able to express like how you're feeling. Like, why is that weak? Like, if you look at, the definition of meekness, people think, oh, he's meek or he's quiet or whatever. Meekness is strength under power. Like, that's kind of what it's defined as. And so, think of it as like a horse, with a bridle kind of in its mouth. There's a ton of power and strength there, but that bridle in its mouth is kind of guiding it and controlling it. It's strength under control or strength under power. And to feel like there's weakness in saying that you need help, that feels weak to me. Like you're just going to isolate yourself and you're going to be kind of trying to spin and figure it out. Like reach out. There's tons of communities out there. There's people that want to help that, man, if I didn't have that when I was going through some of my different business struggles over the years, and there's multiple things that I have struggled with over the years. If I didn't have good people around me, I don't know where I'd be. Like, because you never know. Would you be divorced? Would you be, not have a good relationship with your kids? Would you have failed business? Who knows? But that's not weakness, man.
Well, that's why a lot of times I know people say it's like lonely at the top and going that lone wolf, and it's like, well, if you look at a wolf, a lot of times they howl because they're trying to find their pack and everything, though, too.
Yeah, that's funny. Given my last name is Wolf, growing up in school, I'd always get the "Ah, woo, woo," kind of people saying that. And my nickname in college was the Wolf Man, but it can be very lonely as a business owner, very lonely. And so, there are plenty of communities out there that you can get plugged into. Like I was part of a group in Indianapolis for 10 years. This
Oh,
group was
wow.
called Truth at Work, but it was a roundtable group. Like there's a lot of these out there. There's like C12, like Sam Parr runs one called Hampton. There's multiple of like kind of business based roundtable advisory groups. And dude, there is so much power when you get around a table in person with people that are in different businesses, but you all have similar problems and personal stuff come out, work stuff, fun stuff, like it all gets brought to the table and you build trust with that group. And to have someone to have a group like that, I couldn't imagine not, being a part of something like that and I miss it because I'm not in a group right now. And so I've been trying to think about like, how to maybe, can you start something up? Should I plug in? So that's just my own journey trying to kind of get into something there. But yeah, it's
So do you
very
have,
much.
like, certain checklists? Since I know you're, like, kind of systems and, like, your checklist, do you ever take, like, time to, like, interview different groups to see if you'd be, like, the right fit for it?
No, I guess it for me, not yet.
Okay.
No, I haven't kind of. There is a local group in Indy that a friend of mine runs, and I'll give them a pitch. It's called Kingdom Factor. It's a Christian-based business roundtable group, but I've been looking to see could I potentially maybe get in a group there. Because I really just saw so much. There was so much value in it. You give and take, and you just help different business owners that are part of that group. And but no, yeah, not yet. I trying to figure out timing of that.
I'm sure you will, especially if you made time for the group that you were in that for, like, 10 years. Just that next stage of trying to find out that timing and that level of commitment that might be they need to invest into it. And so, like, how would you help someone maybe that you're mentoring or coaching or doing business with who's like looking for a group and at the same time may not necessarily have like the financial at this time financial basis to afford a group? Because a lot of times, a lot of the groups there's a cost to it because there's a lot of investment to it, and typically people feel more investment when they put their dollar to it as well.
Yeah. Probably the easiest way is, well, before I gonna go down that path, you're right. The groups, there is a cost to those groups. And so, brand new entrepreneur, maybe starting out, will struggle to be able to pay for a group. But to someone in that situation, there are, just even on X alone, just start reaching out to people. Like, you can start feeling a pattern of who someone is based on what they're posting. And it's, honestly, like the way I built my business was local meetups around Indy. I did a lot of that, and again, we talk about work-life balance. That's maybe one of the seasons where you're having to give a little bit more to the business side. And sometimes you're going out in the evenings, had small kids at the time. So, I might have to go out for a couple hours, because to me it was, relationships matter. But that's a lot of how I built the business. So that business was, think of it as like a digital agency, software development company that we would do a lot of back end work um, for our customers. But the way I really built that up was, I partnered with marketing agencies around Indy and other, just other cities. But what I found was that a lot of the agencies then were really good at customer acquisition. They could sell. They did a really good front end work. And at that time, this was years ago, but at that time, uh, back end work was a little more nebulous. It's really easier nowadays, but back then we kind of came alongside those agencies as their marketing, or as their back end partner. Sometimes we had, shared the customer. They do front end and we do back end, and it was a really good strategic partnership. So that's how I grew my business, was finding these strategic partnerships. And so that's kind of how I pull it back to, like, how do you find groups? Is you go find those like-minded people that you can connect with in real life, ideally, but also find some online. But be bold, like, put yourself out there and just kind of say, hey, I really like kind of, what you do as a business, or what you're putting out there as a person. Could we start kind of connecting once a month? Start there. I don't want to meet you every week, like, because someone's gonna maybe say, I don't have time for that. Just put there's a lot of strength in just being bold and having a little bit of courage to just take that first step and make the ask. Because I believe that, and I was just sharing this with my oldest son the other day, because, like, I believe that people want to help,
Mhm.
right? Not everybody, but there are a lot of people that if you just ask them, they will help. And they may not want to give you a ton of time, but you come with, here's what I need. What do you recommend? And when they give you some ideas, do it and follow up with them. Hey, here's what I did, and now I'm stuck on this spot. But you find people like that, and you can start to build your own little community there.
And that takes a lot of courage too, because when there's no community, you have to be the one to decide it. You
That is
know,
true.
so someone who I really respect says kind of this way: if you see a problem and you're not willing to do anything about it, you have no right to complain.
Yeah, that's so good.
If you are the one trying to make a difference, putting in the time, putting in the work, and everything else to try to solve the solution of the day, or the problem of the day, I should say, then maybe a little bit. Because at least you're trying to do something versus seeing a problem, say, well, it's someone else's job, someone else's responsibility, someone else would take care of it. You're actually the one to want to do something about it.
It kind of goes back to, like, you as a leader, and I'm thinking in the business world now. So as a leader, you've got a team. That team, one way to manage up and to kind of help that business, help that ownership team that maybe you report up to. I mean, never just bring problems, right? Like always bring a solution with that
Exactly.
problem. Yeah, so it's just like what you said. It's, there's definitely a lot of power in that. Solution may not be the best one, but hey, I'm noticing we have this challenge that's going on here within this certain process or area of the business. Here's what I'm seeing as some potential options. Now, can we talk this through and never be that person that complains, but always be the one that brings some solution? Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, that reminds me of one of the first books one that got me really into reading everything was The New 1 Minute Manager by Doctors Ken Blanchard and Spencer Johnson. I don't know if you ever read that book.
Man, it's been a while. I do remember reading it, but yeah, what was the big takeaway for you in that?
So the big takeaway for that book was because it's a whole storytelling book with applications built into the story, which is really encapsulating, really enticing because you don't really see a book that's just a full blown storytelling. And so the story that always kind of I recall is the story where someone goes up to, let's say, the supervisor and says, "Hey, I noticed we got a problem." And the person's like, "Great, your job's to find problems. What's the solution?" The person's like, "I don't know. I was coming to you to let you know that there's a problem." Goes, "Okay. The first part of your job is that we're working on these goals and everything is to find problems. Next thing is, why don't you come back and bring me some solutions?" So the person said, "Okay." And they took a few days and they said, "Well, here's A, B, and C." So the moral of the story is don't just come with problems like what you said. And I think it's so important. Come with a solution. What are you actually going to do about it? Which takes a lot of thought and time. And knowing the first option may not be the option. The second one is maybe a little bit closer. The third one's a little bit closer because you have a little bit more thought and different challenges. And it might be a combination of all of them in some way. It's just what are you willing to do to actually to think? I mean, most people don't take the time to think about what is the problem. And the question really is, what's the true problem?
Yeah. What's the true problem? And a lot of that reveals, like you said, how do people think? Like when I'm hiring people, the three things I always really look for are hungry, humble, and smart. Those are kind of the ones like hungry, humble, and smart. So I want candidates who are hungry, so they're gonna take some action. I want them to be humble. They don't need to know everything, but they need to be a good teammate. They need to, to to help, grow what we're trying to grow. And they need to be smart in that, not even like do they need to know how to code the latest language or whatever, use the latest tool? Not necessarily, but how do they think? Critical thinking skills, like that's a big one. How do you nuance through a problem to then come to a solution and come with recommendations?
No, I like that. And it's simple too, which is a great system to have since we always have a tendency to make things so complex.
You know, yeah, it's funny, but you just try and keep it simple. Like nowadays, like I'm really trying to focus in on this meaningful mission concept and just helping people keep it simple. Like, what are you focused on? Like, what matters to you? Like, keep that forefront and just start to then bring it on. And I hope that it's not just making money. Like, because fine, making money's good, build the business, grind there. But man, if that's all that it is, that's not going to last. And so it's like, let's start helping people kind of think through like, what is truly at the heart of what matters and keep that centered as you move forward. Let everything else kind of build into that. And that's where the system stuff comes in and all that.
And it's always so refreshing to hear because you always talk about when someone takes over to build a business that they're doing it all for the money. And it's like the money's like always like the focus of what people see. Well, this person makes this much money, do they deserve it? Versus how many problems are they solving with that business or that development or that idea? That's always like the lasting thought versus the first thought of, well, hold on a second. What problem do they solve? How many people have they helped? And if it's all about the money, that's not in alignment with any successful person I've ever heard about. I mean, I'm sure some people it's all about I'm sure maybe in the beginning it might have been like just to live and survive. And then it's always like people discover the deeper meaning of, wow, this service actually helps people. Like I'm all of a sudden getting all these reviews and everything of how much I changed their life, and that's more impactful than making $1 million, $5 million, however many.
No, I love that, Zach. I think the way that you just summarized it really hits a nerve there because um, a lot of people start a business saying because they want freedom and they want money, right? It's kind of those the main things. And yeah, I'm also going to help people, but to truly understand, like, one, who your customer is and what their pain points are and how you solve them, that is definitely going to then start to propel that business more. But it's getting back even to the basics of, and sometimes you're in a difficult situation where, like, when I was in that point of, like, I don't know how I'm going to pay the bills, like, and I don't know where this next client's going to come from, and so you are in this fight or flight type of mode at that point. And so I'm not saying it's always, hey, you gotta always have this meaningful mission first, and because sometimes life is hard, but I hope that there's something that you're kind of standing on some solid rock on, so that when those issues come along, that's where you can see it. And like the big thing for me these days is, like, man, I like, to me, like, my hands open. I have to walk around with my hands, and hands open, palms up. That's like a big thing for me. And because things come and go, but if I'm like clenching onto it and like really holding, then, like, I might hold on to what I got, but nothing's coming in or nothing's coming out. And there's no flow there. And so for me, it's like, whew, gotta calm down and just walk in this stage of a little bit of trust, a little bit of peace, trying to get a little bit more joy. Like, that's what I'm going after, but still trying to build, still working hard. And yeah, it's, to me, like, that's what my meaningful mission is. It's my faith. It's putting my family first. It's spending time with those that I love and building a business that helps people. So
Well, plus it's alignment with one of the people that you would hire and have that humility to be that open to receive feedback, to receive guidance, to help others too.
man, that's a good point, because no one wants to. You hear a lot of people these days talking about how Claude or ChatGPT is their co-founder, and it's like, it's true. You could definitely go build your business using AI. At some point, you're going to get to a place where, okay, now I need to hire that first contractor, or I need to bring on a part-time person. Man, okay, now I'm at a place where I got to bring on somebody full-time. Well, if your business starts to grow and scale, you will get to that place. Nobody wants to work for a tyrant. Nobody wants to work for a jerk. You want to be that leader that people want to follow. That's the point of, if no one's following you, then you can't really call yourself a leader. So that's part of the growing.
That's true because either you're working hard for your job or you're looking for another job.
Yeah,
I've talked to plenty enough people where they say, yeah, I worked for a boss I didn't like. Here's the reasons why. And that's always the major thing. Can you say the why versus, you know, of them being maybe a little bit harsh or, um, just need a lot of things done because there's a lot on their plate as well. An actual, good reason for it. And then a lot of times people do, and hopefully they might take them a few times to find that job that aligns with their values and everything else, especially when that's at the heart of it. It's like, does the company that you work for align with your values? Do they
love
live by
that.
it?
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's okay for, like, maybe more of a junior team member to not know all the answers. Like, they're gonna fail. Like, you have to have a culture where you allow people to experiment, try stuff, and fail. But if you continue to not get results done, that's on you as the leader. It's not on that person doing that work. Like, as a leader, it's okay to be very firm and very clear about what your desired outcomes are. And so, to me, I think about in terms of what are the outcomes we're trying to drive. Okay, now let's break down how we're going to actually get there. But as a leader, You don't have to be a jerk about it, but you can definitely coach and guide and correct behavior to say, ooh, I saw this happen. Let me help you talk this through. Tell me, first of all, tell me kind of why you took that step or whatever, but then let's readjust. Here's how kind of I want you to maybe focus in on it. But there's ways to do that without, being mean or a jerk about it. But you can really lead people well and have a thriving team if you focus on, you know, just kind of be a good human, man.
Yeah, especially when you have all your values and your like the principles or your systems kind of laid out. So it's like when someone's like out of line or something, or misaligned, I should say, you can kind of point them back. Well, hey, remember we're covering this principle that we're talking about today. That way, it's always as a reminder and like how are you living that out. That's the company that most people want to work for. Is like they know people can make mistakes and fail. They know there's a lot behind the scenes. They may not know exactly to what extent, and the more they, like you said, the more they can be hungry, humble, and smart, and just being able to explain and going back to vulnerability, have that vulnerability to say, why did you do the things you did?
Yeah. Yeah. I think part of being a good leader is being able to ask good questions.
Oh
And,
yeah, definitely.
that's a really key piece of that is, don't demand or don't belittle, but you just help me understand, tell me more, explain. Like there's simple little phrases that you can use to just ask questions, but you sort of put somebody less on the defensive. It's kind of how do you make this more of a collaboration and an open conversation? I think that's what I always strive for when I'm working with people is focus on that.
Well, I'm so glad that we have people like you out there who's trying to make a difference, helping people learn from all your experiences and setbacks to make that opportunity. So as we wrap up today, what is something that you want to speak to somebody today? Someone just starting out, brand new.
Man, I'm cheering you on. Like I love to see people that are just starting to build that kind of cheering them on from the sidelines. And sometimes you come in and out a little bit of what they're doing, but what I really think I would want to share is sort of like what we talked a little bit about earlier is take some time to really understand why you're building what you're building. um, Map out really what's important to you. I really try and live as somebody like I kind of have three pillars that I live off of: encourage, equip, and engage. Like those are the way I try and interact with people and live. And so I just encourage you to really spend some of that time, but keep going. Like there might come a time where you have to shut it all down. I've been there, and it's painful, but you learn and grow through that season. And I guess you getting equipped, it's like find those other people that you can really lock arms with, that you can connect with. And then that's where the engage part kind of comes in. It's like, be bold, take a step, put yourself out there. Don't just sit behind a screen. Like you have to get out in real life, like talk to people. And um, there's a lot of power in it then. And you're going to learn and grow each day. But to me, it's like, man, it's some days are really hard. But to me, it's like when you could stay focused on what you really want, and why you're doing it, stuff just starts to fall into place and it starts to line up. So that'd be my encouragement to the new builder out there, especially somebody that is really trying to be faithful in what they're doing in their life. Um, I believe God has a plan for everybody. I believe God is for you, not against you. He does. He made you for a purpose and on purpose. And so, like, hold on to those things. I mean, reach out to me if you want somebody to talk to. You can find me on X, but it's like just I love talking to people about this stuff because it matters.
Yes, it does. So be faithful to the purpose and mission that's been given to you. So just always focus on having that hunger, having that humility, and being smart. So taking time to think and like what he just said, encourage, equip, and engage. So if you want to engage, Bill's your guy. So go check all his socials out. They're all going to be in the description below. And like what we like to do on this podcast, we like to honor our guests. So it's going to be Bill, and then you'll eventually see the Men's Lifeline Academy and all our socials. And so if you want some of his services, if you can be the right fit, all his business and everything that he runs will be also in the description below. The more that we can support and encourage, business owners and coaches and people like that, the more help that we can help people. And that's what this podcast is about. It's helping men become the best version of themselves, helping people go to the next step and next level. If you need a little help with that, we have the Men's Lifeline Academy Discord group that meets weekly on Mondays at 7:30 p.m. EST, where we have lessons, principles to live by so that way we can empower and encourage men to live the best lives by taking accountability and responsibility. Like, subscribe, and share this video if you got value of it, because we're, you know, past 70 episodes at this point, and we're going to continue reaching to 100. So just keep going strong. Don't give up. And Bill, thank you again for coming on this podcast, my friend.
Thank you, Zach. Really appreciate it. It was a lot of fun and just love what you're doing, man. So just keep going. It's good stuff.
Thank you.